we wouldn't be having breakdowns if our bodies, our nervous systems, our brains, our somas, and our soul did not know that it was possible for us to have a breakthrough. Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember the most important thing of all, why you're here. I'm Asia Suler, author, earth intuitive, teacher, and today, in this episode, we are exploring how breaking down is how you break through. This episode is for when things fall apart, whether that is big or small. And as I'm recording this, we are stepping into 2026. We are in the first month of 2026. And I'm looking back on 2025, and I felt like 2025, it held some breakdowns. There were some breakdowns in 2025. There were also some breakthroughs. I wanted to create this episode as a companion in any moment where it feels as if things are dissolving, where you feel like you're on the edge of that breakdown, whether you've been staving one off or whether you've been moving through them, to help you reframe what it is you're moving through and to see the hidden gifts within breakdowns, which are breakthroughs. Now, if you haven't signed up already, I have an entirely free class that's available right now called Anatomy of a Breakthrough. I've been wanting to teach this class now for over a year. I decided to do it completely for free. It's only going to be available for the next few weeks, after which it's going to go into the class material for my class, Business as a Spiritual Journey. But if you are interested, Anatomy of a Breakthrough walks you through how to create breakthroughs for yourself, how to take the material of whatever it is you're experiencing in your outer life, whatever is arising in your inner life, and it walks you through the steps of how to alchemize whatever is showing up for you in your life right now to create the breakthrough you have been praying for, to create the breakthrough that you've been preparing for. There is an anatomy to this. There is a process to this. And what I find to be really powerful is that there are instructions for how to do this, for how to create breakthrough. So if you are in a space where you are ready for a breakthrough, head on over to asiasuler.com/breakthrough, enter your email address, and we will send it right to your inbox. You can watch it at any time. It is already created. It is already waiting for you. We opened the doors to this free class last week, and it's been really incredible to see what has been breaking through for people, the kind of experiences of opening, recognition, understanding, and movement people are having in their lives. So if you're ready for that breakthrough, definitely go sign up for that while it is still available. And now let's get into this episode to help you understand how the breakdowns that you experience in your life are here to help you break through. In the culture that we live in, productivity, duplication, sameness, being able to repeat the exact same results day after day, all of these things are prized as the gold standard, as exactly what we should be attaining to. And yet this is not the rhythm of how life on earth works. It's not the rhythm of how our bodies work. It's actually antithetical to these more innate soul-given and earth-given rhythms. On earth, there have always been patterns of breakdown leading to breakthrough. It is how the earth regenerates herself. It's how our bodies regenerate as well. We are constantly breaking down old cells to create new cells, to create space for newness. This is a process that is inherent to our being. So often, though, we think that the most important thing we can do is to hold it all together. And I know that this comes up for me frequently as a mother, as a business owner, as someone who tends to be managing a lot in life. I highly prize my ability to hold things together. And yet there's this aspect where holding it all together can keep you in a holding pattern. And I mentioned this at the beginning because you might be going through a breakdown right now, in which case you're like, Asia, I'm already in it. No one is holding anything together right now. But I wanted to say this in case you're in one of those moments in time where you are still keeping it all together, where you are still holding it all, and you're praying for this breakthrough and it's not coming. And part of that might be that it's time to actually let go of holding some of that, to allow some of this breakdown to come in so that the breakthrough can follow. So whether you are holding it all or whether you are letting it all go, I want you to know that you are exactly where you need to be right now. That these breakthroughs for us will never stop being possible, ever. There's something I like to say, that the world loves us so much that the message we need will never stop being delivered. So breakthroughs are possible for you up until the moment of your death and beyond. So I want to give you permission, as you are listening to this podcast episode right now, to just, maybe it's not even a breakdown. Maybe you're just allowing yourself to soften just a little bit, to let a little bit more go, to release the to-do list from your mind for a moment, to let things be messy for a hot second, just for the space of this podcast, to allow yourself to feel that expansion of the breakdown, of allowing things to just dissolve a little bit at the edges. If, on the other hand, you are in the middle of a breakdown, if things are actively falling apart in your life, then welcome. You're in exactly the right place. Breakdown is the building block of initiation. There cannot be initiation in the way we understand it here on this planet without some sort of breakdown. And I'm using this word breakdown in a poetic sense. Now, your breakdown might look like screaming into a pillow, throwing all your clothes out the window, giving away your car. That might be happening for you right now. But breakdowns can also look like a change in the way we think about ourselves, a dissolving in the patterns of the way we used to interact with other people. It can look like a complete reorientation of what you value and what matters to you. But know that breakdown in all of its forms is a kind of initiation. When I first started studying shamanic journeying and the concept of universal or cross-cultural shamanism, I was introduced to this term shamanic dismemberment. And this is a cross-cultural phenomenon in societies that we label as shamanic, in which those who will be marked as the healers for the community, as the shamans for the community, will at one point undergo some kind of dismemberment. Dismemberment is the taking apart of oneself. Now, this could be literal, like your identity collapses, you don't know who you are anymore. Maybe you have a major illness, accident, disease. In the spiritual world, in the non-physical world, dismemberment can look very literal, like you go on a shamanic journey, or you're in a meditation, or you have a series of dreams in which you are literally being taken apart. But what I found so powerful about this metaphor and this process that tends to show up again and again and again in earth-led cultures is that the dismemberment is essential for being able to put someone, in this case the healer, back together again so that they can be more whole. That the breaking down actually allows you to take a bigger form, a new form, and you would not be able to access that form staying where you are now. I think about a seed planted in the earth and how the coating on that seed needs to break completely to allow this new shoot of life to come forth. That must be harrowing. There's a devastation to that. That is a breakdown of something that will never be again. And yet, think about how much potential is coming out of that moment, how much is ready to grow into existence through that little seed being willing to break. So if you are experiencing some sort of breakdown in your life, I want you to know that this is your own initiation. This is a form of shamanic dismemberment. This is the seed springing to life, letting that first seedling unfurl, letting that sapling reach up towards the sun, letting you take a new form. Because ultimately, breakdown is a kind of revelation. Breakdown allows us, like the clouds parting, to perceive the width of the sky, to perceive the stars in what was once a clouded overnight. What breakdown reveals is the patterns we've been unconsciously running. So these patterns that we cannot keep running, we cannot keep perpetuating if we are to continue on our soul's path of evolution and growth. This is why the breakdown is happening. You're doing nothing wrong if you're having a breakdown. In fact, I think breakdowns are absolutely embedded into the nature of reality. If you look at the way in which the earth creates herself, it is not all a peaceful process. There are volcanoes, there's tectonic plates, there's earthquakes. All of these things are processes of creations. There are floods, there are fires. There's this way in which one of the richest methods to create new life is to allow a breakdown to happen. So what is revealed to us when we're in the midst of a breakdown? Well, we see what's hidden. We see our survival strategies, the inherited beliefs that we've been carrying around like a too heavy backpack. You'll be coming face to face with your unexamined loyalties, what you're giving your devotion, your attention, your time to, what you're valuing. And all the adaptations that you made, the brilliant adaptations that you made in the wake of the traumas that you've experienced in your life. All these things will start to come and parade themselves in front of your face. And yes, this can be brutal. We don't want to look at these things. It brings up pain. It brings up discomfort. It brings up fear. Will I ever exit this loop of breaking down? Will I ever be out of this place of confronting these things that are just plain hard, But ultimately, what the breakdown is doing is it's forcing us to come into contact with reality. It's forcing us to develop a deeper relationship with reality, one where we let go of control. Reality is so much more brilliant. It's so much wiser. It's so much more intelligent than we are. And so often, bless our hearts, we want to control it. We want to control what happens, when it happens, who it happens with, how it happens. It makes sense that we want to do that. And at the same time, there is a deeper stream of benevolence that is moving through reality. And when I talk about coming into forced contact with reality, when I talk about coming into deeper relationship with reality, I'm also talking about coming into relationship with miracles, coming into relationship with beauty, coming into relationship with possibility. Reality helps us also see what no longer works, what is unsustainable. We are very interesting creatures as humans. I find us to be very fascinating. We so often override our bodies, override reality to try to make some sort of system, rhythm, pattern function or be real. And at the end of the day, it's not ever possible. Not in the long term. So short term, sure, we can override our bodies. We can override our soul's voice. We can override the way reality works. But ultimately what ends up happening when we do that is we distance ourselves from that voice of meaning within us. We distance ourselves from this connection to our own wider self. And ultimately, right, reality is like a mother welcoming us back in and helping us to see who we really are, what's sustainable for us, what our body actually wants, what our soul is asking of us. And so breakdowns come through to help us break through into that other place, that place where we are moving with more flow, more understanding for who we are, more aptitude for moving gracefully through existence. What I find really cool about any kind of breakdown is that your identity loosens. It becomes more malleable in this way where, just like I talked about with the shamanic dismemberment, it invites you into a bigger, more expanded, more integrated version of yourself. And at first, I think honestly, at first, this is the hardest part about breakdowns. Breakdowns can be incredibly physically painful or difficult. Emotionally, it can feel like a disaster of the highest sorts. But for me, it's this way in which a breakdown asks us to completely reassess our identity that tends to be the hardest, but also the most liberating. So, maybe you have this identity of like, but I thought I was the strong one, or I thought I was the one who took care of other people. What happens when we question that, right, is we start to see the fullness, the wider spectrum of our own identity. What happens if you don't have to be who you thought you had to be? What happens is that you open up to who you actually are, and you open up to the next level and layer of your own soul's growth. So I can say from a really personal place in my own life, the birth of my daughter was a breakdown and a breakthrough moment for me. It was a challenging birth. I was sick with COVID. During the birth, we got snowed in. We had to transfer to a hospital birth from our snowed in place up on the mountain with me being so sick. And I often asked myself in like repeating patterns for months after she was born, why did it go down like that? Why did it go down like that? Like, I'm the strong one, like I'm the one who anything I've ever set my mind to, like physically, like I do it, like my willpower, I have this will to make things happen. And I thought, if I just willed it hard enough, it could happen, this vision of this beautiful home birth that I wanted. And what was super interesting is that as I was in this total postpartum haze, tending to my daughter, being the mother of a baby who was colicky in this very sleepless state, as I was circling around on this voice came in. It was so powerful. And while I was literally broken open from this experience, physically, emotionally, spiritually, this voice came in and was telling me that what happened wasn't a failure. It wasn't that I wasn't strong. It was the opposite. It was that I was learning that real strength is about listening to your body, about listening to your intuition, about not overriding your capacity to force your will upon reality, but to listen to what is actually occurring, to what your body actually needs. And when I look back on that moment of deciding to transfer, of realizing that for me, it felt like a life or death moment to transfer, there was no doubt in my mind that that was exactly what I had to do. It was crystal clear for me. It was only in the aftermath, when you have time to doubt and question and you're not nearly as in your body as you are in labor, that these questions came in for me. And it completely rewrote how I saw myself. Instead of seeing myself as strong because I could strong arm my body into doing whatever I wanted it to do, I saw myself as strong because I was willing to listen to my body, because I was willing to be brave enough to go on that journey. And it completely changed how I interacted with myself, how I interacted with my body, how I interacted with my goals, how I interacted with other people. It brought me into myself, and by bringing me into my body more fully, it expanded my vessel. It expanded my capacity. Now, breakthroughs are not just emotional or spiritual. Breakdowns are literally a process that we are experiencing within our body and within our nervous systems. And I found it to be really interesting once I looked into it as to what actually happens within our bodies and nervous systems when we are going through a breakdown that is leading to a breakthrough. So there's something in our brain called a default mode network. And this network in our brain is where we connect into our stories about ourselves. It's how we narrate ourselves, like, this is who I am. This is what matters to me. It's where we replay the past, where we rehearse the future. It's the part of us that maintains this like coherent self story. So all this self-referential chatter starts to quiet as well. And this sense of you being the person who manages reality starts to loosen. And I find this fascinating. It can feel a lot of different ways, though. When this network goes offline, it can feel disorienting. It can feel empty, like, okay, wait, what? I was holding on to this thing and I had this really strong story of who I am, and now it's not there. We can have a loss of motivation. And this is really where we're experiencing this ego death. Like, I don't know who I am anymore. And so I just want to affirm you that this is not just you in your head of like, oh my gosh, I've just totally lost track. This is literally your brain going through a really important process. So why does this create breakthrough? Well, neurologically speaking, having this default mode network go quiet creates space inside of our brain and inside of our nervous system. It allows other networks to communicate more freely. Perception becomes less filtered by old narratives. We are seeing the world constantly through all these old narratives. When you are going through a breakdown, you stop seeing those stories through the same narratives. There's possibility for new narrative and new story to take place. And when new meaning does arise, it's not immediately categorized or shunted into some part of your brain. It can kind of like sit there in this like whole creation in your mind. It's this wholeness of this mysterious arrival. And when we are in states like this, states that you call liminal states, breakdown states are liminal states. We're not who we were. We're not who we're becoming. We're sort of in this messy middle right now. Plasticity in our brain increases. So there's literally more potential for our brain to grow, expand, and change. So the brain is literally most plastic when its prediction models fail. So I thought something was going to be this way and then it wasn't. And now I have to reassess the whole map. You know, when this old map no longer matches the new territory, that's when our brain becomes the most plastic, the most ripe for change, and breakdown kind of forces this plasticity. It forces this expansion, this moment where things can be rewritten, where synapses can be pruned, where we can rewire, we can connect to new metaphors and images and solutions, and we have creative spikes, not just through productivity, right? But the creative spikes that are really us repatterning what's possible for ourselves. Now, this all sounds really lovely, right? We're like, sign me up. Yes, I would like for the old stories to die. I would like for there to be, new insights, new connections, sudden clarity. But something else that's happening when we are in a breakdown is something that's called emotional flooding. And this is the part that feels really hard and really intense, and often is the thing that makes us stop the breakdowns from happening, where we do everything in our power to like reverse course and be like, nope, I'm going back to the old story, or nope, I'm going to go back to holding it all together, or nope, I'm going to push this deep down inside my body where it can stay for all of time. So emotional flooding can look like waves of grief, shaking, uncontrollable crying, deep rage, states of panic or despair. None of these things tend to feel really good in the moment. It tends to be pretty intense. But what emotionally flooding really is a sign that your body and nervous system has reached its containment capacity. Your body and nervous system is saying, I can't contain this anymore. And it's time for me to release this. Your body is literally taking the lead and saying, it's time to let this go. It's a kind of pressure release. And we often, when we're experiencing this with ourselves, or even sometimes with other people, we can get a little scared. We can be like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to end? Whoa, this is kind of terrifying. Like, I can't stay here forever. But what I want you to know, this kind of emotional flooding, like when you have the big things move through you, what's happening is really cool because that flooding is discharging really big things from your body. It's actually helping you release things. So you're releasing unfinished survival responses, times where you froze, times where you were not able to do or mobilize in the way you wanted to mobilize. You are releasing bound up emotional energy. All those emotions that we stuff down, that we don't have the space or time to feel, they're coming out. Anything that we had to delay feeling in that moment for safety reasons will be released at some point. This is you giving yourself permission. This is your body taking that lead to let it move through you. And so literally your nervous system is saying, like, I can finally move this. And that is a really good thing. Now, I want to mention that sometimes this kind of flooding can feel re-traumatizing, right? Like it can feel like, oh gosh, here I am back in the field of this really high intensity and activation. But when transformation can happen, the breakthrough happens when that flooding is met with enough time. You're not rushing yourself. You're giving yourself spaciousness, sense of safety. You're creating safety in that moment, whether that looks like you need to go lay in bed in that moment, you need to call a friend. And then permission, no self-shaming, to just allow yourself to go there, to be in this, and to know that it's an arc. It's not going to last forever. What's happening is that you're releasing the charge that was behind that dam, behind that wall. And often when we have the kind of containment that we need to move through that, we feel lighter on the other side. We feel clarity. We have the ability to access the kind of perspective that we've been looking for. So all of these things are happening literally within our soma, within our body, because we are reorganizing. And this is at the heart of a breakdown. You're literally, let's go back to the shamanic example here, breaking something apart, breaking it down to put it back together into something that is more whole, has more capacity, more capability, is a bigger vessel for your soul and your growth in this lifetime. This is the way your body reorganizes itself into the next layer of your identity. We go through many chrysalis and birth phases as humans, and this is built into our systems and our bodies to help us to do that. So through, our identity loosening, for new patterns becoming possible in our brains, and then old energy being freed through the emotional flooding, we make ourselves available for the breakthrough that is en route. So how do you know that this breakdown is trying to deliver you to a breakthrough? Because sometimes we are so good at containing that we might not be having these overt emotional flooding experiences. And we can really just feel like things are just like slowly falling apart in our lives, or like nothing is working. So how do we know? How do we know if we're not ticking all those boxes that this is happening? You often feel like you're in a very liminal state in life. Like where you're at is untenable. If knowing where you're at is untenable, that means you're in the midst of a breakdown. That's like a key clue. There's this sense for sure of like not being who you were, but not yet being who you're about to become. I think that this is a really interesting one too. I often find that one of my clues that I'm in the midst of a breakdown that's leading to a breakthrough is that I have new desires, new yearnings, new hungers. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that I wanted that. Or like, wow, yeah, actually that. Pay attention to those. Those are guiding you. Those are leading you. Those are like, it's like food for the new body that you're inhabiting, food for the new version of yourself that you're becoming. And in the midst of all of this, you will probably have moments, flashes of clarity. And I think what often happens is that we have that flash of clarity and we think, cool, I'm done with the breakthrough. That's great. I got all the way to breakthrough, from breakdown to breakthrough. Here I am. Hello. And then we have another breakdown and we're like, what? I thought I was good, like for life. Like I had that realization. And I think what this is that we are continuing to peel back another layer. And it's not a sign that we failed at all. It's actually a sign that we are ready to take those steps into this next era of our becoming. It's like taking a little test and passing with flying colors, and your spirit, your soul, your body, your nervous system being like, cool, cool, cool. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Now, this said, it can feel extremely hard to be in the midst of a breakdown, to be having things fall apart in your life. There's really nothing harder, especially when your identity is getting completely reorganized around you. So how do you complete the cycle? Because what can sometimes happen is that we have a breakdown and it's so intense that we actually like pull back, kind of like chutes and ladders, like we land on a space and we go back to the beginning. We're like, nope, I'm going back to where I was. Or, we try to do our best to move through it by just strong-arming reality and, holding it all together. And that's not actually allowing the breakdown and the breakthrough to happen. So how do we complete the cycle? That's what's being asked of us, is to complete the cycle. The most important thing is in the moment, the hardest thing, which is to just be with the experience. Now, we need to be with the experience within what's called in somatics our zone of tolerance. Like, we're not supposed to go completely out of our zone of tolerance where it feels like we're being re-traumatized again. But in any way that is possible, stay with the experience that you're happening when you're having a breakdown. And I think it's really helpful to practice this in our little mini breakdowns. Like those moments where you're just like losing your mind on the highway for whatever reason, like, there's traffic, you're going to be late, dropping your kid off to school, or, you found out that this thing that you typed up on the computer and saved, like somehow wasn't saved and the earlier version overrode it. And you're like, it's just like this party that just wants to like lose it, whatever it is, like practice with these smaller moments first. And in this moment, the best thing that you can do is to actually breathe into what you're feeling, even if it's intense. And there's this wisdom about emotions that actually emotions as an energy, like that wave, only lasts about 90 seconds. And what then creates this emotion that is ongoing and lingering is our stories about it. But the actual wave of the emotion itself, only about a minute and a half. So this is going to take practice, but whenever you can, to just stop what you're doing. Like stop trying to manage a million things. Stop trying to make stories about it. Stop trying to figure out your next step. Just turn your awareness to your body. Ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? What does it feel like? Tuning into textures and temperatures and sensations. And then you might even ask yourself, what is this emotion? And you might have a word float in. It might be like grief, despondency, anger, rage, disappointment, whatever it is. It's perfect. It's allowed. And then just breathe into it. Literally just imagine breathing into it and seeing any way in which it wants to move. We're not asking it to move. We're not forcing it to move. We're just breathing into it. I am amazed by how much things can shift by just being with it and breathing into it. And I invite you here in this moment to allow yourself to be messy, to allow the charge to come out. If you want to scream out loud in your car or punch a pillow or let the tears fall, if you're in a moment where you can't do that, that's okay. But when you do have a moment, when you are alone again, when you are in your room, or you are with a trusted person who can hold you, to allow that to come through and to be with it in your body, to companion the emotion, to allow it to be like a wave that moves through you. You will often find when you do this that your body has specific things it wants to do in that moment. Let it. Whether that's shaking, whether that's trembling, whether that's certain, jerky type movements or hitting out, or sometimes it's softening. Just let your body do what your body wants to do in that moment. Like, just allow yourself to be almost like a scientist of like, I wonder what my body wants to do right now. Oh, okay, that's what my body wants to do. How interesting. Allow it to happen. And whatever way you need, give yourself permission to ask for the kind of safety and containment that you need, whether that's asking to talk to a friend on the phone, asking for your loved one to hold your hand or give you a hug, whether that's curling up into your bed and pulling the covers over your head, creating this safe container for us to feel our emotions, for our bodies, our somas to do the kind of like dance work they need to do to release the charge that's inside of them. This will create the space where these things can happen. We wouldn't be having breakdowns if our bodies, our nervous systems, our brains, our somas, and our soul did not know that it was possible for us to have a breakthrough. The reason why you're having a breakdown is because the breakthrough is possible, because you've reached the end of what you can endure in this space, of what is possible for you here in this space, of being able to receive nourishment from where you've been. And so this breakdown is breaking through that wall for you to be able to step into this next era of your being. And I want to name really explicitly here that when the breakthrough happens, it happens in our consciousness first. That so often we want there to be an immediate change in our physical world, but that's not how things work on this planet. It happens in consciousness first. And so what you will notice on the other side of a breakdown transforming into a breakthrough is that you think about things differently. The things that used to grip you don't grip you quite as hard, that there's possibility where there once was none, where there's acceptance, where there once was only refusal or resistance. And so this ultimately is how you know you've reached another side, and that physical reality will start to meet this change in consciousness in a cascade as time moves on, that you have moved through this beautiful arc of breakdown, and here you are on the other side in breakthrough. So if this is speaking to you, if you want more guidance on how to break through in your life, regardless of whether or not you are in the midst of a breakdown, but if you are in the midst of a breakdown, then this is going to be even more helpful for you, then definitely check out that free class, Anatomy of a Breakthrough. We go through the specific steps of how to create a breakthrough in your life, the breakthrough that you've been praying for, the breakthrough that your soul is delivering to you right now, the breakthrough that you deserve. So that's over on ageofsolar.com/breakthrough. And if part of what you're ready to break through in your life right now is your business, if you are a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to start a business, if you've been dreaming about starting a business, my yearly sale on my program, Business as a Spiritual Journey, is happening right now. It's the biggest sale I've ever done on this course. You get so much content the moment you sign up. It's a 5-week journey. So each week we are releasing new modules, new content. The course walks you through understanding the soul of your business, what it is you're actually here to translate, how to work with the soul of your business to be able to become a channel for what is wanting to move through you into this world. It helps you get comfortable with what I call your sacred transmission, what you're here to say in this world, how to put yourself out there, how to be comfortable with marketing, how to share yourself, how to write newsletters, how to be engaged with social media in a way that feels authentic for you. We go deep into how to actually get your goals into reality, how to make your dreams a reality, the steps of how to have a business be functional for you, specifically for you, because the class is specifically made for empaths and sensitives. And so anything and everything that you could imagine under that umbrella for how to function in a business as a sensitive and empath, how to create a business that nourishes your nervous system, how to engineer a launch, how to write your first book, how to start a podcast. That's a brand new bonus this year. That's all within the course. And if you sign up during the sale window, then you'll also get access to 2 live events that are coming up in February and March called Ask Asia Anything. And these are live Q&As with me where we will be sitting down and you can ask me anything you want about your business, about your livelihood, and about how to make that dream possible. So that class is on sale until January 29th. So if you're interested, definitely check that out over on my website. And no matter where you're at in this transformational wintertime, this moment where we're entering this new year, we're shedding the old, we're stepping into the new, whether you're in the midst of a breakdown, whether you are on the precipice of a breakthrough, wherever you are, may you remember that everything that is moving towards you now is designed to help you remember who you are, to help you step into the ever unfolding layers of your own becoming, that you are never left behind, that you are always held in this experience of becoming. And may all of these things, the breakdowns and the breakthroughs and the precipices that you're walking towards, may they help you remember. Always help you remember that most important thing of all, why you're here.